there are dark things in the book. People die, there's dark things that happen. But I just felt it was unnecessary to have the graphic violence, the gratuitous, all that. So I just thought, as a Christian, it's very hard to find a fiction book without cover to cover filled with profanity, sex, violence. So I kind of took it on a challenge to myself to say, you can write an interesting story without the need of those things.
Some experts chase attention, but the smart ones build authority. You're listening to the Authority on Demand podcast, where credibility becomes your competitive advantage. Every week, we're pulling back the curtain on how founders and leaders turn expertise into inbound demand through books that position, media that converse, and strategies that actually move the needle. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authority on Demand. Now, let's turn your authority into leverage. Okay, everybody. So, what happens when an author decides to take on human trafficking, political corruption, and organized crime, all while keeping his fiction clean enough for his grandmother to read? You get David Cary and you get the Veil Chronicles, a series that's proving that you don't need moral compromise to create a moral complexity. On our podcast, episode is going to be for writers who believe books can change the world, one reader at a time. I'm your host, Danielle Hutchinson, and our guest has entered the author world with nothing but a powerful story about a young woman and a detective, and just get ready to discover how mission-driven storytelling is creating its own marketplace. Without further ado, David, welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me be here with you and with your audience.
Hey, real quick before we jump back in, if you're loving what we're doing here, hit that subscribe button and drop us a like. We're bringing you the best authors, the most real conversations, and all the writing wisdom that you didn't know you needed. So stick around because it only gets better from here. All right, now let's get back to the conversation. Of course, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. It's definitely a very unique genre, unique topic, and I think we're going to learn a lot from this conversation. So I just have to start off by learning a little bit about yourself. I mean, what led you into the writing world? What drew you to write Christian thrillers, a genre that, I think is pretty unique and cool? What led you onto this path?
Well, I guess I've always kind of like had a background or thought about writing, but I just never did it because every time I'd step into a bookstore, I would see hundreds of books, and I would be like, let's not even start that. So, for my, I guess, regular work, I do some IT work and I do IT related type work. And this past January, February, things were kind of slow. And I just was like, okay, I had some ideas. Like I had this, actually, I started to dive into a science fiction series, science fiction, and I'm still have that on the background. And so I started working on that, started writing that. And then this idea was actually I started a few years ago, and like my mom was editing it, but I just kind of set it aside and just things just life got busy and I didn't, you know. And so as I was working on my science fiction series, writing the outline for it and starting on like book one, my wife, my lovely wife, she was like, she's not a science fiction fan. So she's like, well, what about that other book? What about that book you started way back when? And so I was like, okay, she's right. I don't want to just start something and leave it unfinished. So I went back to that and started looking into that, the ideas that I had, and I just started working on it and was able to finish it. So
Awesome. So it sounds like your wife was a pretty powerful motivator here. She, encouraged you to finish what you started and kept you on track a little bit. Is that true?
yeah, exactly. She was like, like, why don't you work on that? Or why didn't you? Yes, it was she was a good motivator. So
Yeah,
yes,
I guess we all need someone like that on our team, right? Somebody to keep us going and remind us that we started a book. You've kind of got to finish it.
yeah, gotta stay focused and but I'm still gonna go back. I'm still gonna go back and do that science fiction book and
Okay.
that or probably gonna be a book. I don't know if it's gonna be a series. No, we got the outline down, and so we're gonna be working on that. So yes, ma'am. So
Okay, well, awesome. And with that foundation, I think it's time for us to dive a little bit into the content of the Veil Chronicles. Do you happen to have a copy of one of the books with you today, by any chance?
I have the Maurice, the first one I have and then I have the digital. I have a copy on my phone of the other one. So
Mm, got it. I always like to give an opportunity to, show off the covers, that sort of thing, because, we
hmm,
never spend much time on that. It's,
what's his
you never
back?
judge a book by its cover, but it's important. So, did you design it yourself?
No, actually, the person who edited the book, I think is what was his name? Jay, oh, I'm a brain cramp. It's on Goodreads. I can find it. But the people who did the editing, the manager of the editing, um, his group did the cover design, and I think they did a really good job. So and also as, I know we're probably gonna ask that later, but as for writers, aspiring writers, um, definitely have someone edit your book for you. If you're gonna think about writing a book, you need that third party, that person to look and do the editing for you. And then, so I would definitely recommend that. But yeah, they did for both covers. The both covers of the Veil Strikes with book two and book one, Mary Shadow. It was professionally done. I'm not an artist, so I definitely would, be like little stick people if I did. It'd be like little stick people. So
Of course. Got it. Got it. Well, thanks for that. And it's good to know that, not you don't only have your wife on your team, but you have a team of editors, cover designers, tons of people. And I think that all authors need to make sure that's known. It's you think writing is a solitary task, but it's not. You need that team with you. So it's great that you had that, David.
exactly.
Yeah. So to dive into the content itself a bit, this book deals with human trafficking, political corruption, organized crime. So tell me a little bit about why you chose those directions. Did something like that stand out? And it must have been really hard to maintain clean standards as well while writing about it, right?
Yes, well, no, I mean, far as me, no. But it's kind of funny that so for some of the editing, I would use AI for editing, right?
uh,
But AI would come back and have curse words in there. I'd have
mm.
to, like I would, like they do whatever, and it would come back with cursing, and I would be like, no, no, no profanity. If you're gonna edit for no profanity, okay, okay, no profanity, and I would tell it no profanity, and it was it was kind of like funny. Like I guess someone taught AI how to curse, use
That
profanity.
is really funny. Yeah, I guess the system must have been trained on the standard way that a character might be speaking in that sort of a
Exactly how a
genre.
character
Yeah.
would react. Yes, ma'am. I believe that was exactly the case. How a normal uh character in a situation would react. But once I gave it the guidelines that hey, if we're editing this for for grammar. I'm not especially for grammar and stuff like that. It's a tool. AI is a tool that writers can use. Now, not to let AI write for you. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like one just real get into it real quick. Like one thing I would use AI for is a sounding board.
Okay.
Okay. For like let's say I'm going to let's say in the book, I'm thinking about killing this person off or I'm thinking about doing this, or is this like there's some things in the book, the one especially in book two, is this even possible? I want to create this scene. Is this even possible? I don't want to someone read the book and say, "Ah, you can't do that, that's it. Or like I needed information about a plane. Well, I didn't want to just put a plane, a Cessna flew from Washington and actually, okay, what would be the time to fly from this state to this state because you put in your book, you write your book, and so they got in the plane at 7 o'clock at night, and an hour later they're in California. And people are gonna read it and say, "Just what? How did that? How do they do that?" And so that's like I said. Now that I know there's some controversy where people they take AI and they write me a story, and the AI writes a story for them. But I like I said, I used it for a sounding board and for research, good research. It can help you research things that you need a location. I need a location. I need, I don't want to pick a location and people say, oh, that doesn't exist. Or I need a restaurant in such and such city. What would be a good restaurant to without having to go to that city to for people to meet or things like that. So
Yeah, exactly. So I like that you said that. I think a lot of people listening today can learn from that as well. We don't want to use AI to write an entire book, but as a tool, as a sounding board, as you mentioned, a great way to get some feedback if you don't have another person to run it by immediately, or if you want to save yourself some time with research. Amazing stuff. So yeah, thanks for sharing that with me.
But also,
Um,
let me also give a warning. AI will it will try to change your story. It will. It will try like, for instance, let's say you do a few pages and you give it whatever, and it's going to edit it, whatever, for pacing, for grammar. And it would constantly put things in that weren't supposed to be in the story. And I would have to say, no, you know, that person doesn't know about that person yet. That person stopped talking about,
yeah, yeah.
that. And it was real funny. So in one part of the book, which the AI, there's a character in the book that has a prosthetic leg because he's injured in war.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, in as I'm editing and writing that series, writing him meeting his wife, the AI came back and edited and said his wife has a prosthetic leg. And so
Uh,
I was like, no,
not break off more legs. Yeah.
it's like, no, she does. But then I said, wait a minute. I can use that. So I used that little blurb in there. I think it just mentioned about her walking with a prosthetic leg, and I just because it added it in, and I was
Mhm.
like, okay, I let me
Yeah.
use that. And I wrote a background with her, how she got injured, and how she ended up with a prosthetic leg, and so it enhanced. I believe it enhanced her background, her character for that one little change it made. I was able to.
Oh, so you went along with it and you adapted your book to meet that then.
Yes, well, but like I said, it just had. I think the blurb it was like it was her walking with a prosthetic leg, and so I was like, "What? I didn't say that. How did you get?" I was like, "Wait a minute, I needed. He has a prosthetic leg, not." But then I said, "Okay, let me just go ahead and use it." And I wrote more background into her. I kind of developed her story, and it worked out good. I think it worked out really good. But anyway, I'm gonna let you get back to your questions.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can talk forever. I'm a talker.
Hey, that's what a podcast is for talking, right?
Maybe I should do my. Let me. How long you been doing a podcast? Let me ask you.
Oh, no, our show has been going on for about a year and a half now, I would say. It's going great. We've talked to about 250, 300 different authors by now. I love it. And I always learn something new every day. And for here today, I learned that, sometimes if an AI comes up with a hallucination, you can run with it and use it to enhance your story. It's something
Yes,
creative to
but
know.
like I said, it will change. And there were times too that it absolutely took out in the editing. I guess maybe I'm like whatever thought that my sentences were too long or whatever, the chapter's too long, whatever. It would eliminate some of like one of the most important scenes in there. It like in the editing, you'll come back and I'm like, oh no, that's one of the most emotional scenes of the book, and you're just gonna take it out. So I was like, no. So,
Right.
and so there are times you just gotta like I'm like, no, I don't like that edit. I don't like it. So
Understood. Well, I think it's important for us to talk a little bit about the characters. The Saffron Veil organization, for example, it's very realistic. So, how did
yeah,
you come up with that, and how much real world research went into creating it?
that was just that was just a 100% my own creation. And but what I wanted to do when I thought about Saffron Veil, I wanted to do a book different than any other book. I didn't want, and if you think about all these, I'm just going to call them the evil organizations that they're always wanting to conquer the world. They're always wanting where they want to like poison, kill everybody else. There's some, and I just wanted to like a realistic group that all they want is money and power. They're happy being in the background. They're just happy just working behind the scenes as long as they are making their money. They're not really, into war or things like that. And people have kind of like said, wow, that's pretty realistic. And and so how do we come up with such an idea, or why? I would say that there's a lot of corruption, I'm gonna say, in our government and institutions. And one has to wonder, is there something behind it? And I know I'm trying to think there's different people, different groups, the Council on Foreign Relations, people always think that and people always think there's some secret group behind the scenes that's running everything. And now what I originally came up with this idea was there was a political event, and or something was happening. I don't want to get too much in details, but someone was kind of forced to the sidelines. And I thought, did they have something on him? Did they have something that they just kind of like, and then, okay, just for example, you get a congressman, senator, whatever, they go to Washington, they're like, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna change that, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And they get to Washington, what happens? It's like crickets, crickets, crickets. They don't do anything. And then you hear before too long, they're multimillionaires.
Mm.
They're multimillionaires. It's like, why? What's happening? But it's just pure fiction. I don't. It's just pure fiction. But I wanted to, create a group that had some background. Kind of started it I think it's like 100 years old or so, and then it kind of turned into this group that the main thrust of their operation is information. They use information to wield power behind the scenes. So they use information to wield power. So let's say they take a person and they help them out of a situation, or whatever, maybe someone in school, they change their grades when they're in college, and later on help them get past a college class. But later on they come calling and say, hey, we helped you here. Now you can either help us now, or we're just going to expose you. And so that was, and it probably, what I say, something like that could happen. I would say very much it probably could.
Understood. Well, hey, I mean, thank you for walking us through all of that, and to know that it's fictionalized, but also comes from the heart and from your own inspiration. It's very inspiring. I think you gave us a nice little sneak peek to what's in store once we, dive into the books themselves.
Yes.
Yeah. That being said, though, to transition into the writing process a little bit, I mean, what's a typical day of writing look like for you? Balancing your everyday life. I know you work at a spiritual center as well. How do you get into the mindset for writing, while in the midst of everyday life?
Now I'm working on book three right now. I'm on book three of the Veil Chronicles. I'm on the final series. And it's actually been a few weeks since I've actually written. And I'm trying to, how do I, sometimes I just do it. I just, or, sometimes just going out doing everyday things. I have an idea, like real recently, there's going to be a scene in the third book towards the end of the book. And then I thought, as I was just going about doing my whatever, that wait a minute, I need to put some foreshadowing of that scene in the book. So, and I just, whatever, put a note, take a note on my phone, hey, or add it to the, story, and I kind of like outline, or just the end of it, hey, add this. Um, so there are different things. Just get different ideas when you're out in the back. Sometimes you just sit there and it's like, okay, what am I going to write about now? So sometimes you have to step away and just do other things, and things come. And sometimes as you're writing, or as I'm writing, start thinking of an idea, and then that develops in another idea, or that bursts another ideas as you're writing it. Okay, okay, let me write this, and oh yeah, let me put this will be good, and I can add this to this thing. So that's pretty much, and sometimes it's just gotta like take a break from it. 'Cause you
Understood. Yeah. Sometimes you do need that break just to kind of refresh your mind and get back into it, right?
Yes, exactly. And sometimes you get these, like, if you think of ideas when you're driving down the road or like I said, sometimes doing my IT work, just get some ideas. Oh yeah, that'd be great. Let me put that in there. I need to go back and I need to add that to to uh to enhance the story.
Understood. Well, yeah, I mean, thank you for sharing all that with us. I think a lot of authors can find a ton of benefit from that. Now, you've proven that faith-driven fiction can actually tackle tough issues and real-life problems. I'm wondering if you have any advice to authors who want to follow in your footsteps, who might want to also write with purpose in a fictionalized setting. How did, what was your strategy for doing that?
Well, one, don't compromise your faith or belief.
Right.
Don't compromise. If you don't want to have the profanity or the graphic. Now, there are dark things in the book, in the story. There are dark people dying. There's dark things that happen. There's great, people dying. But I just felt it was unnecessary to have the graphic violence, the gratuitous, all that. So I just thought it's not necessary. So don't compromise. It, and that's one thing as a Christian, I would, you pick up a book. It's very hard to find a fiction book without this, paint covered ideas. I'm not just talking about here or there, but cover to cover filled with profanity, sex, the violence, and it just, where can you find it? And so I guess it was kind of like I thought, why why is it that no one has done this? So I kind of took it on a challenge to myself to say, we're going to prove you can write an interesting story, a gripping story without, now it's not perfect. There's things and you learn it. It was my first book, but that you can do it without the need of those things.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. Again, if anybody wanted to follow those footsteps and they feel inspired by what you've done, that's exactly what they should do. Now that being said, I'm wondering, do you have any sort of resources or perhaps a way for people to connect with you if they're interested in maybe learning a little bit more about your strategies, but also your books as well? Where can they best get connected?
Well, I'm on Facebook,
Okay.
and now there's two pages on Facebook. I have a DLC Publishing on Facebook, and and David Cary. Let's look for my face on Facebook, uh, and I think it's David Cary, by the like David Cary 988, or also on Instagram. I'm also on Twitter, and what's my Twitter handle? Oh no, that's actually it's not Twitter anymore, is it?
I think they call it X these days.
Yes, it's David Cary at Deleric, which Deleric is Dlyrac, and that's my DL, then my last name spelled back.
All right. Well, awesome.
They can talk to me there. Of course, they can find the books, of course, on Amazon. They're available on Amazon, and if they want to, they can go to Goodreads and they can see the different reviews. My book just did a book tour on X. It's received some good, I believe some, let me find. Oh, I guess it just got another person just gave me a review, so I have to see if they
Ah,
I'll
well,
have
look
to
at that, right?
I'll have to see if they gave me a like I never read this again, or one of those ratings, like try, like my singing, like if I try to sing, someone would say keep your day job.
Understood. Well, hey, I love that. That's very exciting. And everybody, if you're interested, we're going to put the links to the in the description box of this podcast today, so you can go ahead and click on over and learn a little bit more. But as we begin to, wrap up the episode today, Dave, I'm wondering if just have any last bits of advice or, anything to leave the audience with today as they continue on with their day. What's one word of wisdom they can carry on with them? What do you think?
Well, the main thing is, you know, I believe being a Christian is the most important thing, and it's only because of God's grace that I could write something that does not, because I mean, believe me, before I was a Christian, I used all that stuff, profanity and stuff. But I'm just glad that God is able to clean the heart up, and that's when the heart is clean, because Jesus said, "If you clean the inside of the cup, the outside will be clean also." And it's because of that. It's because of that reason. It's not because of anything special about me. It's because of that I was able to. And as a Christian, we don't have to compromise our faith. We can. And that's where it starts from. That's where it starts from. And so, and also, I always want to give the glory to God, because the scripture, and I'm paraphrasing, scripture says, and I don't like to get, and there's faith. I don't get preachy in the book either. It's not a preachy book, but the scripture tells us that God is the one. We're able to get gain. We're able to because of God. Because without God, without His grace, where would we be? And different things that happen in our lives. It's so we have to always remember to give God the glory, or whatever He enables. He's the one that enables us to think, and He's the one that created us. So I believe that's very important.
Understood. No, I love that. And that's very inspiring too. So thank you for that. I think that's the perfect phrasing to leave everyone off of today and to inspire them as they go throughout the rest of the day after hearing this. So
Yeah.
yeah, this has been a very inspiring conversation. I really appreciate it. I mean, your approach to writing, the way that you kind of built your mission first and the platform around that and the books from that, you've done some amazing things here. And I think that any of our listeners who are listening today and feeling called to follow in your footsteps and write about difficult topics, or if they can build a career without compromising their convictions, I think you're definitely an inspiration to them. So thank you so much for all of that.
All right. Appreciate it.
Great. And to listeners, again, we're going to have the links in the description box of this podcast today, so you can go ahead and click on over and learn a little bit more. And until next time, just keep writing, keep leading, and keep inspiring. We'll see you next time on the Authors on Mission podcast. That's a wrap on another episode of the Authority on Demand podcast. If today's conversation sparked something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with a founder or leader who's ready to stop being the best kept secret in their industry. If you want to turn your expertise into inbound demand, head to authorityondemand.com to see how we help clients go from unknown to in demand. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, and I'll catch you on the next one. Now, go build some authority.